Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Good afternoon. Welcome back to Partnership for Profits. I am Will Brooks. I'm your host for the day, and we have an amazing guest here today. I was having a little conversation with him before we got started, and we got a really amazing story that we're going to hear from Miles Cooper, who is a strategist, a writer, a trial lawyer, and he runs his own firm, Coopers LLP, where he helps clients find justice through precision, preparation, and above all, empathy, which is a big part of what we're going to get into today. Miles, super happy to have you on the pod today. Appreciate you giving me some time.
Well, thank you. And I'll make a slight mod to the intro, which is the firm's name is Coopers, and it's because there are two of us. And Marianne Cooper, my spouse, and
Gotcha.
She would cringe if she heard you say that I run the firm. So I do the strategy side of things. She, in terms of operations and all the other things, she is definitely a gift as far as that's concerned.
100%. I got you, man. It's a partnership. You guys are running it together. Love that. I think that's fantastic. This is going to be funny saying your name several times throughout the podcast. My oldest son is named Miles, and I rarely meet another Miles. Actually, I've got right here over my shoulder is who he's named. This shoulder is who this shoulder is who he's named after. I got a Miles Davis album right there.
Nice.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to call out my son's name over and over again on the pod. So, but I'm glad you're here, man. I'm really glad that you come in and joined us today. We were talking a little bit before we got started about empathy and how you all have injected that into your law practice and how you're helping and working with clients. And you were giving me a little insight as to kind of a life-changing event that happened for you all that may have kind of helped kind of get you on that more on that path of applying empathy into your firm. Can you tell me a little bit about the backstory that you were telling me before we got started? I didn't want to get too much into it because I wanted it to be fresh here on the show.
Yeah, well, I think anyone who does personal injury work does understand that there's an empathy component. It's you're dealing with people who are oftentimes going through the worst experience of their life, whether it's a serious injury or the loss of a loved one. And so I think that anyone who's drawn to this practice at the beginning has some piece of that. I will say it was a very different experience for me to go from being somebody sitting across the table, hearing people's pain and working with them, to having our own experience with challenge. And as far as that's concerned, our daughter is 12 now, and she is fine. I lead in that way because the story that we're about to go through is challenging. When she was just shy of her third birthday, she had been having an intermittent cough and fevers, and we first thought it was pneumonia, and after taking some medication and still hearing noise, we got sent in for an X-ray. It was actually almost to the day that this happened in October, just before her third birthday.
Oh, wow.
I was dressed up to go to a judge's dinner dance that night. And we went to the X-ray. I presumed we'd get an X-ray, and I dropped the kids with the sitter and go off to the thing. What ended up happening was we were told to report to an emergency room immediately. And things escalated from there. What turns out was going on, she had a mass growing in her lung.
Oh, wow.
It's a very rare cancer known as pleural pulmonary blastoma. It had completely crushed the airway to her right lung. It had mostly closed the airway to her left. Back in the 80s, before this was a better known condition, parents would just find their child blue. That's how it ended. So we ended up getting taken to Stanford, to the ICU. It was a very strange experience because as the helicopters are landing and these kids with all sorts of mega traumas are being brought in on beeping machines, our daughter's playing because although her airway's mostly closed, she's still, I mean, as far as she knows, she's fine.
Right.
Um, that did not last. As soon as we started, they did a biopsy, and as soon as they narrowed down what it was and started the chemo agents, she started chemo the night of her 3rd birthday, and um, it was awful. I mean, it was awful being in the ICU. When you saw all of these children coming in, when you heard codes, because
Yeah.
we were there 24 hours a day with her. I
Yeah.
know a little bit about what hospital life is like before we started, because I know you've been on your own path.
Yeah.
Uh, you'd hear the codes, and you'd see teams rush in. You'd see the families and all that they were going through. So we had our own piece that we were dealing with, and we had a year long of surgery and chemo and radiation and C. diff, and things are going well and things aren't going well, and she's losing weight, and a 1 in 3 chance of survival.
And she's 3.
She's 3.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it it caused me to reprioritize. You would think as a father, when we have kids, we would recognize that we only have one go at it. But at the same time, I've always been very competitive from the building the practice and trying cases and doing the work.
Right.
And it's very easy, I think, at points to, if you were very good in your career before you had kids, to start uh, having, I will say, a resentment in certain respects, that I used to be great, and now it feels like I'm trying to fight somebody with one arm literally tied behind my back.
Right.
So th- I feel in certain ways this was something that we needed. I needed to remind me of the importance of the people around me. And
Mm.
I completely reprioritized. So I had been involved in various boards and organizations and other things. I dropped everything but being a dad and running our um and I've been much happier since. I will return to being a, an active community member in terms of the legal organizations. The kids will leave the house in the
Yeah.
not distant future, and I can always do that and do my duty as far as that is concerned. But you only have one go around it. So your question. I'm sorry. I'm talking
No, I wanted to hear the
long.
story, man. This is
Um,
fantastic. And I could not agree with you more that I have 2 grown children, and I have, and one of whom I told you a little bit about, my personal story with, spending a lot of time in a hospital and dealing with that. And I have heard those codes and seen that, and it is just heartbreaking. But I also know, as I have a younger child now, I'm remarried and I have a 6-year-old. So I've kind of started fresh, and I know how fast it goes. And yeah, you get that one time. And once your kids hit a certain age, you don't see them nearly as much as you think you're going to see them. And so really capitalizing on that time while you have it is, I mean, you're right. It's the one shot. Like I've got an 18, 19-year period here where I'm going to get to see as much of them as I possibly can and be as involved as I possibly can. And then they're adults and they have their lives. And you're a supporting player at that point. You're not the main character anymore. So I totally understand that. And I'm really appreciate you sharing that with us, and how that's affected how you're approaching the work. So yeah, no, please don't feel like you're talking too much, man. I want to hear how this impacted you guys, and where you guys are now.
well, so the piece, getting to the empathy side
Mhm.
of things, it it really, I felt, was transformative for me, uh, on the beyond prioritizing being with the kids, on the work that we do in terms of telling stories to juries, because that at the end of the day, our job is to help 12 strangers who do not know our client uh, understand what our client has been through.
Right.
And there are a variety of ways that you can do that. The ability to communicate feelings really is probably the most important, from my perspective, and from what I've seen in the courtroom, for jurors to really get it. And lawyers and law school does not teach emotion, or at least when I went through law school, didn't teach emotion in the same way. I was at a parent-teacher conference with our son not too long ago, where the teacher was talking about the early teen years, preteen years, and how big the emotions are, and how you have to feel all the feels.
Yeah.
And I liked that phrase, feeling all
Mhm.
the feels, and I'm hearing it more frequently. It If we want the jury to understand where our client is going through, we have to understand our own emotion, and we have to be comfortable with it. And I think a lot of lawyers are used to the facts and the framing of things, but actually getting deep into how your client is experiencing things, talking to your clients, loved ones, friends, caregivers, eh, going to their house, being with them as they're going through their experiences. There are some people who might feel that that's a little too invasive, and the best lawyers I've seen are the ones who really uh, are willing to go the distance and to crawl into their client's skin all the way.
Yeah. To understand that's how you're gonna understand the story, and to tell the story 100%. I have my background is in acting. And I was talking with an attorney last week on the podcast, and we got into a little bit. He said that he went to Michigan for law school, and one of the requirements of the law school there was that you had to take an acting class.
Hmm.
And he said it was super helpful for trial work, to be able to kind of convey a message to a jury. But you also have to, the message has to be true. The emotion has to be true. You can't fake it. And so yeah, storytelling is is massive. That's how people are going to relate. I think that's how people are going to relate to the message you're trying to get across, for sure. So 100%. So that the experience with your daughter, is that really where that was that what kind of shifted you into this kind of mentality as far as how you're going to approach cases, how you're going to approach the clients, how you're going to approach a jury? Or
It led me down a path of getting to know myself better,
Mhm.
and in knowing myself better, it allowed me to be more comfortable in my own skin, and being comfortable in my own skin, it made it so that I could walk into a room and be fine with however things happened. And and I think a lot of men, and specifically men,
Mhm.
have issues with emotion. Issues meaning they don't have um, the language skills to be able to articulate, "What's going on with you?" "I am mad." And,
Or usually it's, "I'm fine.
yes, yeah. "You seem upset." "I'm fine."
I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah,
No worries."
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to be able to really get into what is going on within yourself, that's the precursor to being able to get into what's going on within others. Your comment about taking an acting class
Mhm.
as part of law school, one of the things I did as part of my career and various learnings, um, J- the Jerry Spence School, Trial Lawyers College, um, had these regionals. I don't know if they still do them, but they would do one on psychodrama. And psychodrama was an amazing experience where you have different people playing different parts. You
Mhm.
set the fact pattern of your case, and you'll have somebody sit and be the defendant driver, like the truck driver who runs over your client, and you sit and you try and be in everyone's shoes, so that you get all of the landscape and all of the understanding, and see what feels right, what doesn't feel right, and it can really, in terms of the connectedness to the story and being able to see all of the angles, that also was an amazing experience in terms of how one built one's case.
That sounds fascinating. Yeah. I think all we work with a lot of attorneys, not on their trial work or anything. We do marketing and social media content and podcast production, and a lot of what we do is pulling attorneys out of their shell and allowing them to be themselves and be comfortable being themselves, which is it's an acting exercise. And we encourage almost every single one of our clients to either go take an improv class or go take an acting class. And we tell them this is going to improve you in the courtroom too. It's not just going to make you better on camera. It's going to make you a better storyteller. And the ones who do follow through on that, they do see the results from that. Miles, you're a writer too. Is that right?
Yeah. So I do a monthly column for a magazine called Plaintiff. Been doing it for 14 years, I think.
Okay.
So, and that's been a fun, actually. I mean, obviously we, as lawyers, we write for work as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
This piece I like doing because, once a month I have to sit down and come up with 800 words about trial practice or, life and law and other pieces. And to keep it fresh for 14 years has been, kind of fun.
I wonder, I gotta believe that doing that for 14 years, that's probably impacted, how you craft story for a jury, because you're having to craft the story. And when I say story, I don't mean fictional, obviously. Like it's a real thing, but you have to tell it. I think much like a documentary filmmaker has to, they're telling you something that's factual that really happened, but they have to craft it in such a way that it's watchable and that you can get empathy from your audience. I gotta imagine that the writing has impacted that for you.
It has. The other piece that's been fun is during the pandemic when lots of things slowed down, like trial courts weren't open for a while.
Right.
So we had the opportunity to retool certain things. And as part of that, I went back and I realized that uh, I could index all the things that I'd written, and then I started realizing I had, in essence, a practice guide. How do I want people within our firm to work things up, look at things, build things? How do they approach a mediation? How do they approach discovery? How do they approach taking depositions? And so then I started using the column to fill in the gaps of things that I hadn't written, so I could fill that whole piece out. So it's been a fun exercise as far as that's concerned.
Right.
It at a certain point, though, after 14 years, it does get a little challenging in terms of finding things. One thing, though, is I've found at this point it is almost my journal, meaning typically once a month there will be something that is bothering me about the practice of law, and generally that will be what I land on. It's the thing that I'm most passionate about, and I end up writing about that side of things.
It's a great venting exercise too. You kind of can get it out and then you're able to share it with other people. I think that's amazing. So you've also got a podcast, Miles. Tell me a little bit about Cooper's Code.
So Cooper's Code originally started as an idea of in essence doing a voice and video version of the
column.
of the column. And after doing that for a few months, I found that that was not anywhere near as interesting as sitting down with some of the greats. And so for quite a while, what I was doing was sitting down with some of the best defense lawyers, plaintiffs' lawyers, mediators, judges, and doing what I would describe as typically an hour and a half to 2 hour deep dive of how do you get to Carnegie Hall.
Okay. Practice.
Exactly. And that was really, and then part of what was so interesting for me on that is I had the benefit of some great mentoring in the plaintiffs community. I grew up at a firm called the Veen Firm. Bill Veen and Cynthia McGuinn were two lawyers who took me under their wing and really taught me all sorts of skills, because a lot of cases don't go to trial anymore. So the trial arts are something that, unless you're coming over from the criminal, prosecutor or PB side, there just aren't as many people doing them. So one of the things I wanted to do was provide a venue for those who wanted to become great trial lawyers to hear from great trial lawyers how those trial lawyers learned their skills and share some of their wisdom. And so that was great. I really enjoyed that. And then that also started to feel a little stale.
Sure.
Once you hear the 27th lawyer of how do you get to Carnegie Hall, and so then we started doing some what I call after action analysis, and that is you just got a great verdict. How did you get to the point of getting that great verdict? And those have been really well received.
Cool.
So
So you're still talking to attorneys on the firm on the pod. That's still who you're bringing on, other attorneys and people in the legal field.
Yeah,
All right.
our core audience are really lawyers who are looking to improve their game and become better trial lawyers, better practitioners.
Gotcha. Well, let's circle back to empathy a little bit, because you're leading your firm. You talked about how you had some great mentors. I'm imagining that you are a mentor to people who are coming into your firm. I want to know how empathy influences how you lead and how your team and how you're training the younger attorneys who might be coming in and joining your firm.
I think that I would broaden it from empathy to include civility, and that is something where in the work that we do, I'm going to come at that a different way. When you look at the criminal bar, the PDs and the DAs see each other the same time. It's an infinite game. You see the same players again and again and again and again, and you have ones who you get along better with and ones who you get along worse with. But generally, you try and maintain some level of cordiality because you're going to have to deal with the person again. In the civil bar, it's gotten broad enough where we're not in person in the courthouse. We're not across the table in depositions. Those are mostly Zoom now. And the infinite game has turned into a semi-finite game. The result of that is the civility in the civil bar is deteriorating.
Really?
So, yeah. You'll get some behavior that is really awful. Well, I'll give you an example. The San Francisco City Attorney's Office, when our daughter got sick, every lawyer I know on the defense side bent over backwards to grant us extensions or give us, like, look, you got your thing.
Right.
There was only one lawyer who pushed back and in fact opposed our ability to push a motion out. And that was the city attorney's office. And so you'll find areas where there are cultures that develop. On the whole, our goal is to make sure that we get along well with the other side,
Yeah.
even when they're being awful to us. And that can be hard. It's as I have pulled further back from the day-to-day fighting, it's very easy for me to say, oh, well, just, I know they've been a jerk, but give them the extension. It's a lot harder when you are receiving the, I'll say crappy instead of the S word.
It's okay.
I don't know if we're
You
explicit
can
or
say
not
it.
here.
It's fine.
So,
It's fine. You can say it.
when you're getting the shitty email,
Yeah.
and your desire typically is to, like, push back. And there's something that is not original to me, but in essence judo law, where you can either fight with every single thing that comes in and push back on everything, or you can just let that energy go past you. And a lot of the times, particularly on the plaintiff side, we're not paid by the hour. There's
Right.
no goal for us to rack billables by engaging in warfare.
Yeah.
There are things that we will fight for. We will need to get our documents or do other things. But if you can find a different way, if you can be civil with the other side, if you can resolve things in a way where your enemy becomes your friend, you're better off. And so there is an empathy component, but it's broader than that, and it's the civility side where we can make a difference. And I think one of the things that you don't learn in law school and you mislearn from watching law shows is that the way you are a lawyer is to be the quickest, nastiest person out there.
So I want to make sure I heard you correctly earlier. You were talking about the lack of civility in the civil courts. You think a lot of that stems from how remote it is now? Is that kind of what you were? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that what you were alluding to? Like the fact that we're not we're not face to face, we're not in the same rooms anymore. Do you think that gives people more? Maybe it's easier to be less civil when you're not physically in the space with someone. Like, hey, we're just talking on a screen. I can do what I want. I'm going to hang up and won't have to think about it anymore. Is that
I think it preceded the Zoom world.
okay?
And this is where I was trying to do the infinite versus finite game.
Right?
If you, when you're in an infinite game with people, in your house on a day-to-day basis, you're dealing with your 6-year-old
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
If you and your spouse, if
Yeah.
you cr- attempt to crush that person in a way where you will never have a relationship with them again, that's finite game playing.
Right.
Infinite game is, I'll negotiate with you and I'll work things out, and I might turn the other cheek on something that pissed me off. And so as the bar has gotten bigger and bigger, and all other examples, LA is such a huge basin of lawyers that you will oftentimes not see the same lawyer ever again in your career. And so the people treat you like they will never see you again in your career. It's finite. So,
Okay.
whereas
Okay.
when I've had cases in the Central Valley, like Fresno, Bakersfield, Visalia, the folks down there see each other again and again and again, and some of those folks are still like okay doing things with a handshake. Um, whereas in a lot of our practice, you're writing a confirming letter after every conversation, and with some lawyers, you don't have conversations on the phone because if you don't have it in writing, you can't trust that what you talked about is going to happen.
Because I feel like what you're talking about, the lack of civility, I don't necessarily think that that just applies in the legal world. I think that that lack of civility is kind of I don't want to say it's an epidemic, but I mean, we see that everywhere. We see it on the news every day. We see it with how people in power talk about each other, um, and talk to each other, and not just in politics, but everywhere. Everyone seems like they're cool to just shit on everybody else and not worry about any like I don't know. I don't know where that started. I don't know if it's social media that started it. And I worry about my like you said, I have a 6-year-old. I worry about his future and like what is the world going to look like for him? When do we get back to just being nice? Don't be a dick. Just be nice. Like that's kind of my mantra is just don't be a dick. Just and never burn a bridge. Always, there's always a possibility that you could circle back around to somebody, and you never know how you might be able to help each other out. I don't know. I wonder what it is that's kind of caused that change in society.
Well,
Um,
so two thoughts here. One is that pendulums swing.
mhm,
So as we've gone to this extreme name calling
mhm.
in the political arena, um, there is a likelihood that there will be some sort of failure point and things will swing back.
I sure hope so.
So I don't know that it is all doom and gloom as far as that's concerned. The other is when you see that being done at that level, we tend to what's acceptable up there is
Top
what we
down.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'll tell us a story. So one of the things I had to work on was rage. As I worked through some of the things, getting to know myself better,
Mhm.
and I was an imperfect person when our daughter was sick, and particularly if there was something where I felt like they were putting her at risk. And so one night at the hospital, I lost it a bit with one of the nurses, and so I got called on the carpet by our daughter's oncologist. She I don't know if she was a Buddhist or what have you, but the main oncologist that we dealt with was just so grounded. And so the next day, our daughter in clinic lost it as well and kicked the oncologist in the shins and then
Oh,
pulled her
wow.
pants down and peed on the floor. She was just not having it.
Right.
And the oncologist just looked at me and said, I wonder where she gets that from. And it was like that was the moment that I started working on some of the things myself.
Sure.
So I think that we just like our kids, if we look and we see the politicians acting like assholes, then we start saying, okay, I guess we can act like assholes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're seeing that in the news every day. We saw stuff that came out yesterday, people bringing out, what is it? Signal chats, all that stuff that came out. I mean, where do you think that stems from? It's a top down issue for sure. I do sure hope that it swings back. I didn't mean to get into politics there, but I just, I feel like what you're talking about, that lack of civility is like I said, it's not just limited to what, the civil courts. It's all over. And we got to be better, and we got to be nicer to each other, and listen to each other, and have empathy 100%. Empathy is the big deal. So when you look ahead in your firm, in law in general, how do you see empathy shaping the next generation of trial lawyers and the future of the legal system as a whole? You talked about that pendulum swing. Do you think that's going to swing back?
I certainly hope so, and I want to play my part. And so if I were to be preaching as far as that is concerned, the way to increase civility is to turn the other cheek, is to try and remain fact neutral in terms of one's delivery, and to make sure that one's firm and one's lawyers live that way. So and because I am an imperfect person, I recognize that there are times when, even though I espouse that, I do not live up to it, and recognizing that when you don't live up to it, acknowledge it and move forward and apologize for what one did.
Got it. Miles, I could talk to you for 2 hours easy. Unfortunately, we got a wrap here in just a minute, but I got to tell you, and I'm not blowing smoke here. I've done, over the last couple of months, I've done probably 60 of these pods, and today, this episode, I can say without a doubt, this is my favorite conversation I've had in the last 2 or 3 months. So I really appreciate what you bring to the table, and I gotta say, man, you got the silkiest voice. You did I want to check out your podcast just to be able to hear that the beautiful, deep, dulcet tones of Miles Cooper on the pod. So I'm definitely going to be checking out the show. You're still recording it, so I'm gonna subscribe, and everybody else out there should as well. But I'll let you have the floor for a second to let people know how they can get in touch with you, how they can find the podcast, how they can find the firm if they need help in California.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you. You've got my ego just floating higher than I keep trying to do ego death, and you're not helping.
Oh, sorry. Well, I'm being honest though. And I'm trying to be civil.
Yeah. So we're Coopers.law. The podcast is Cooper's Code. It's on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, anywhere fine podcasts are sold. And we'd love to have people follow us, and we'd love to help out on any issues that people might have to come our way. So really appreciate you having us on.
Absolutely, man. And thank you so much for giving me some time today and for sharing your story about your daughter. I'm super glad to hear that she's well and thriving. That's always great to hear. I know I shared my story with you as well, and my kid is also in a great spot. So as a parent, there's nothing better than that when you go through something hard like that, to see them continue to grow and thrive is fantastic. So thank you again, Miles. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm going to have you back on. I want to talk with you some more about maybe we'll talk about some other stuff beyond empathy, but man, you're very zen. You got me in this zen spot as I move on to the rest of my day. So I really appreciate you put me in that headspace. I hope that you guys that are watching the live stream out there have gotten in that zen headspace as well. We appreciate you guys watching the live stream. If you're watching the recorded version on YouTube, or you're listening on podcasts or Spotify, or on Apple or Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, we appreciate you guys tuning in as well. And we appreciate the thumbs ups and the stars and the likes and all that good stuff as well. That really helps us to get the show out to more people and to let people like Miles here share his story with as many people as possible. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll be back in a few hours with another episode of the show. And I hope that guest can live up to what Miles has given me here this afternoon, or morning, I guess. Is it afternoon where you are? Yeah, it's morning. It's 10:30. Yeah. But again, Miles, such a great conversation, man. Really appreciate your time. And I will see the rest of you guys here in a few hours with another episode of the show. Until then, take care, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.